Welcome, everyone, to another edition of Coffee Talk right here at the Space at Port Jefferson. We're hitting home runs today, talking to really important creative people. First, Jana Turner of East Main Street, Breathe, and now a guy that you'll see on the corner. He's not doing the wrong thing. He's always doing the right thing, doing incredible art. Welcome, Dino.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Thanks for joining us. I think I met you just driving by 4 or 5 times. I'm saying, who's this genius? I didn't even see what you were doing. I'm just like, who's taking the time on a sunny day to just, I see what you're doing. You know, you're doing landscape art. I think it was the Brookhaven Tax Building. That's what it was.
Yes, the red building on the corner there.
Yeah, it caught my eye. And I think I even asked you, I was a gentleman for once in my life, and I said, hey, do you mind if I said hello, and I said, do you mind if I just do a little Instagram thing of you doing magic? I mean, I can never draw. We'll get into that later, but I'm looking at you, looking at that, and doing this, lack of a better word, this landscape real-life art, and I was mesmerized. Just fantastic. Let me say that. I'm like, and then then I say to myself, wait, is this real? Is somebody this talented around in this village all the time? And you are, brother.
But I wasn't. I live in Setauket now.
Okay.
Born in Port Jeff, and it took me 10 years to bring my paints over here.
Okay.
And once I did, I was painting and drawing with the birds and the bees, and now it's people and trucks and cars and people that I grew up with and from high school stopping.
Didn't know that.
And it's a completely different vibe, and I love it. I mean, I love it. It's what a living.
So would you say you made your bones doing that other stuff? Were you literally consciously saying, let me, like all artists, make my bones and, to be frank, practice my art before you went out in the world? And come on, you're a little bit public now. You have to admit that, right? People know of you. They know of your art. Whereas before, you're a little subverted, I guess.
It's an interesting question because the greatest art gallery in the world is the internet. It's Facebook. It's Instagram. I'm not on Twitter, but that's the great gallery. And I have thousands of followers there, but local people only really saw me in Setauket, Stony Brook. When I came to Port Jeff, people said, holy cow. I have friends from high school, drove by in a truck. He's screaming my name. I haven't seen him in 35 years. But, of course, I knew exactly who he was. And it's exciting for me. And I do that as not – usually my landscapes are not were not something I had planned. I just went out. As a matter of fact, I started the red building because I asked the local policeman walking down, what's your favorite building? I'm an artist. What do you think I should paint? And he said, you have to paint the red building. It screams history. And I said, I love this guy.
That was your first year?
That was it. That was my first
I didn't realize that. Okay.
I walked over there, and then I also knew I was okay with the police.
Right.
Because they're not going to throw me off. I wasn't selling it.
Right.
I was painting.
Right.
I was enjoying myself, and I try to chat with everybody. Sometimes a little child comes by. I hand them the paintbrush and let them put a couple of strokes on the bottom.
Wow.
Yeah, it's
the people's
fun.
artist.
You can have fun with it.
So that's exciting because I just put together that the first time I met you and we chatted a little, it was wonderful, was the first time you did a building in Port Jeff. Is that what I'm hearing?
I've done it a couple of times, so it may have been the second time.
Okay.
I believe it might have been the first time.
Okay.
And a local woman who is an incredible photographer came up and said, I love that. I'm going to connect with you. And she ended up buying it. And I said, wow, that's great. And then it was storefront. And then Margot Garant, the mayor, said, I have to have that. And then I painted the church. And then the woman said, hey, you painted my house in the church painting. Can you paint my house? And then Margot said, oh, you're going to paint her house. You have to paint my office. And I made my way down East Main Street.
Wonderful.
And it started to get cold.
This is such a story because, you know the history of East Main Street. Or at least I hope you know.
I know it's artsy.
it should be, and we want it to remain that way. And there's been, it's 2023 now, and there's, to be frank, less retail in some instances. Art drives retail. We had an art store go out of business.
Sure.
So I am very much a proponent of East Main Street staying, really artistically motivated. And we have that, music store. We even have services that I consider to be art on East Main Street. Breathe is an art-based store, as an example. We want to keep that integrity of art. I just want to say that's so important to those of us that revere it. The bookstore, Michael Mart, would be a perfect example of keeping that genre of artistic flavor.
Sure.
Can bookstores make it today? I don't know. Maybe they can. Maybe with a guy like you there every once in a while, it probably definitely can. There's a whole other side to you that, as we started to talk before this interview, I love it because you do not usually associate. I can almost think of no artist I've ever met that also has a sales background or sales talent. You seem to emanate sales. And I don't mean hard sales. I just mean that, first of all, you have the experience in New York City, which I want you to talk about, but also you're confident about what you have to sell it. And I have to say, I've admired art at shows, and I've met artists that are almost hiding from the sales thing.
Sure.
How did that happen?
Well, oddly enough, one of my friends hired me out of college. I went to the University of South Florida. It was a hell of a vacation.
You had a great time.
I did. And I was hired, but I was dropping off a portfolio at a production company in the city, and a woman came out, and everybody scattered. I was telling jokes at the front desk. I was leaving for Florida the next day, and out comes this woman who looked like Calamity Jane. She's in this leather outfit with tassels and this big hat, and people looked afraid. And I said, uh-oh. And she said, "Excuse me, what is your name?" And I said, "I'm so sorry. Am I being reprimanded? I was just telling a few jokes." She goes, No. My name is Linda, and I own the place, and I'd like to offer you a job." And I said, "What? Is this candid camera?" And she said, Where do you work?" And I said, "I work at Red Line Illustrations. I'm an artist, but clearly I'm also the messenger, and I get lunches, and I clean up. And I haven't been working there that long, but I love it. But thank you very much. I love what I do. I'm really not interested." And she said, "Well, I don't give up that easily. Why don't you call me when you get back from Florida, and we'll talk about it." I went back. They said they didn't want to compete with her. I was heartbroken. I wanted to stay with them, but I heard her offer, and she offered me a salary of more than I was making and commission. I said, "Artists make commission. I didn't know that." Mm-hmm. Fantastic. Mm-hmm. I took the job. My first day, I said, "Wonderful. Where are my markers, my pencils?" And she said, "Oh, honey, I didn't hire you to be my artist. I hired you to be my sales rep." And I said, "What? What do I do?" And she said, "There's a list of people that you're going to call at the ad agencies that do what we do, that use our product. I'm going to give you a company American Express card, and I want you to take somebody to lunch every day and dinner every night, and I want you to get them drunk." And I said, "Linda, I'm your man."
Yeah.
I said, "I just did that for 7 years at the University of South Florida, and nobody paid me to do it."
Yep.
And it blossomed from there. However, I wasn't doing anything with art. Then I found the Art Students League in the city, and I decided I need to go to this place. So for 20 years after my ad job, I went to the Art Students League.
Wow.
And I was taught by some of the greatest artists and teachers in the world. And all I wanted to do, I finally liked being in school and took it seriously. And now I've transitioned from the advertising business back to Setauket, which is next to Port Jefferson, the town over, where I grew up. I have an 11-year-old daughter who was raised here, and my wife. And I just wanted
the two. You've truly
I
married
have.
the two.
I'm still in the advertising business,
Right.
and I still represent a production company called Open Swim, which is fantastic people, and they're very creative, and they love my art. And so I'm still in contact with the ad people, but I feel like I don't work anymore. I can't wait to get home to finish the piece that I'm doing.
Because you love what you do.
And then, exactly. And that's
Never
really
work
what it's about.
a day in your life when you love what you do.
But I also want to thank all of the people that have been supporting me. I
Sure.
mean, without them, without people liking my art, paying, buying it, which isn't all that expensive. They take me a long time sometimes, but I think I'm pretty good at this stage. They're the reason I can do this. They're the reason why I'm getting better, because that's the goal too.
How many pieces of art do you think you've done?
Oh boy, I'm pretty prolific. I'm going to say at least 500 or 600, and maybe more.
So
And-
something like this in back, which everybody watching this will recognize.
Okay.
This is truly beautiful. I don't know what year. That's the Belterre.
That is the Belterre Gates, and that's where I grew up. That was
Okay.
those were the gates to my youth, right there.
That's amazing.
And it was magical. And standing outside the gates, which I think I've done now about 9 or 10 times, I see people that I know. They wave, they honk, they almost crash into each other. It's magical.
Let's break this down, okay?
Sure.
I'm not by any means an art expert. I'm
Okay.
much more music than art. Let's break this down. You're on the lawn across the street looking at this for how long, and then do you finish this off in a studio? Just break this down from an artist standpoint of view.
Sure. I prefer to finish the whole thing there. And I'm at the mercy of the weather. I'm at the mercy of the seasons. If somebody wants a Belterre Gates and they don't care if I'm painting it plein air, which is from life, I can finish one in the studio.
Gotcha.
Sometimes I go out, and just to get the building, I don't use any rulers. I don't grid anything. Everything is freehand. Everything. The building is probably completely off.
I can't fathom
but it's
that.
freehand.
I can't fathom it.
It's how I was taught. I was taught classically. As a matter of fact, I never used brown or black.
Follow me here. I'm
Sure.
looking at shadows here
Okay.
that I feel you would only get from that day. For example, the shadows on the chimney.
Yes, which is why you have to go there the same 2 hours
That's what I'm thinking.
every day. And sometimes they take 2 weeks, but if you put it all together, it's 14, 15, 20
Okay.
hours, something like that.
Okay. And what is the method and what is this called in terms of what are you brushing with? Is this oil?
It's oil. I work in oils
Okay, always oil.
or pencil. That's
Okay.
it. Oil or pencil. Acrylic actually dries too fast for me. I
Okay.
like to be able
Okay.
to play with it. I think the colors are nice and rich.
Is it always brush? Are you doing any other tools but brush?
I've tried a palette knife a few times, but I have a big problem with painting loosely. It's where I'm trying to go. I mean, if you've seen any of my drawings, I can draw photorealistically. It's an actual battle that I have with myself, and I try to study other people. I love painterly pictures. I've recently done a giant commission of 16 pieces of Impressionist art. So I had to paint loosely, but I copied, not copied, but recreated, because it was all freehand as well. I recreated their art, and it was interesting because I'm thinking, wow, what was Picasso thinking when he did this? What was Van Gogh thinking? What was Rembrandt, Turner, Cézanne, Renoir? I mean, because they all paint differently, but I had to paint all of them. Seurat, I did the Sunday afternoon on the Isle of Grand Jatte, the most popular Seurat. I'm going to guess 2 million dots and strokes later, I was in love with my own painting. I mean,
You were loving the
it doesn't.
process.
The process.
The process.
I don't want a 500-piece jigsaw puzzle. I want a 5,000-piece jigsaw puzzle,
Okay.
and that's what they are. That may have been 50,000-piece jigsaw puzzle, and I believe it probably took me 150 hours, but I still couldn't. I couldn't wait to get to my studio and paint.
They say that like great actors never watch their movies. Some of the greatest actors we know, let's say Robert De Niro, that he rarely, if ever, watches his movies.
I've heard that.
Once you've done your piece and you've gotten that joy from the piece, Are you in love with it? Is it hard for you to let go? Or is this the business part of you that goes, I did this for a reason, and if somebody appreciates this much, I am letting this go, I'm selling it. You know, I can imagine that you might be somewhat married, or some other artist might be. You might not have that connection. I don't know.
I do. It does happen. There are pieces that I wish I had back. As a matter of fact, I tried to buy one back from a friend of mine.
Wow.
And I think he wanted about
More.
12 times what he paid for it. He got a good deal, but it was still, I said, look, as my friend said, you can always paint another one. So, you know, you can't always. As a matter, you bring this up, I sold my favorite painting, these blue burst hydrangeas, yesterday. I still have it. I'm shipping it on Tuesday. She commissioned me to do another one, took another piece. It was a nice sale. I miss it already, and it's still in my studio.
Yeah.
But it doesn't happen with every piece.
Okay.
It doesn't happen.
Are your children.
That's right. And so, yes, you do that. And sometimes I sell it, and I try to recreate it, and you just can't. I try
Exactly.
to do right. You can't.
So
I mean,
like when sometimes I create a musical thing, and I look back 5 years and I go, I don't know why I did that, why I thought that. I actually don't want to recreate it. It's very uncomfortable for me. So it's interesting in that regard. This particular painting, or the idea of painting the Belterre Gate, you must have, and you don't have to mention names, you must have customers in Belterre that have to have this. I'm quite sure.
I think probably a dozen
Yeah.
that have it right now. And another half dozen that drove by me and said,
Right.
I need that. I need to have that. You know who you are.
You know who you are.
But I also, being that I was forced into sales by taking that job, I carry postcards with me. And my prices are extremely reasonable because I don't go through a gallery very often.
Right.
If I do, I want my artwork to be out there. Would I like to be getting $100 million for the recreation of Seurat? Yes, of course. But, you know, several $1,000s pays my bills, and it allows me to do something that I absolutely love doing, and I listen to music the whole time. When there's a
wonderful.
Mick Jagger that you know, because
Know
Mick
it very
Jagger is hanging on your wall here. Whenever I do a musician, and I've done a lot of them, I listen to the music of the musician.
Are you serious?
Well, I put it on Pandora, so they'll throw in somebody else.
Okay.
But I can't tell you how much Grateful Dead I've listened to drawing Jerry Garcia 15, 16 times.
Okay.
Painting him a few. It's amazing. I mean, it does put you in the mood. There's a sadness that comes with drawing somebody that has passed away as well.
You got to do Jeff Beck.
You know, Jeff
I'm
Beck.
going to commission you to do
Well,
Jeff Beck.
How about Crosby?
Just
David
happened.
Crosby. I know.
Yeah,
this
just
is
happened.
this is the music of our youth, and yes, I listened there. As I think I told you, when I found out that the Port Jeff Library, I was in high school. You could take out music albums. The first album I took out was Jeff Beck,
I didn't know that.
and
Oh, wow.
they kept calling.
Oh,
me
you did tell me
to
that.
get it back, but it was a nickel a day.
Yeah.
And so
Totally
I
worth
think
it.
$2, $2.50 later, I finally brought it back. But
When you talk about comparing the way you did this with the oils and the way you did Mick Jagger, and I'm going to show Mick Jagger in the background, which is sitting here in the space. You better be careful. I may never let it go, and then I'll just have to freaking buy it. But I love this. Just go into the construction, for lack of a better term, the drawing. It's a drawing, right?
sure, it is a drawing.
Just talk how that may differ than this technique.
You know, the
Well,
technique is very similar, and I had been in the Art Students League for, I'm going to say, a decade. But there was one teacher named Nelson Shanks, unfortunately passed away a few years ago. He was the greatest artist I had ever personally met. I mean, his artwork stops me in my tracks. I said to him one day in class, one day I aspire to own a piece of your art. And looking at me like Henry VIII, he said, my boy, I hope you aspire to greater things than that.
Humble.
Right. And he taught me this technique, which is a grisaille. It's an underpainting. In my drawing classes, I had a couple of great teachers as well Costa Vavayakis was one, and Ephraim Rubenstein. They taught me how to draw. So I took 20 years of figure drawing, a little figure painting and portrait painting, but mostly figure drawing. So when I approach a photograph like Mick Jagger, I don't grid anything. There's no projector. There's no light box. There's me pretending Mick and I are in the room
That's
together.
incredible. It's really
and
mind-blowing.
I make everything in geometric shapes because you don't draw the eye, you draw what's under it, you draw what's over it, and then the eye actually finds its spot. Then I turn the picture over, and I do it that way, and I said, oh, that's completely off. Wow, okay. Then I turn it to the side. And once everything seems to be in the right place, now I can dive in from the gold, which is shadowing, making reflections in the eyes, bringing the mouth to life, giving it life. And because they're freehand, they're unique.
Very unique.
And nicely flawed, I like to add, because they're flawed. Now, I know where they are. Somebody says, oh, my God, that's just like a photograph. Sometimes it is. Sometimes it's not just like a photograph because I didn't want it to be a photograph, but they still think it is.
Okay. How long did Mick take?
I'm going to take a guess that because of his mouth, which I believe took me a week, I'm going to say Mick probably took about 110 hours. I don't always know exactly how
You're not
long.
putting a clock on next to it, sure.
But I know for a long stretch, especially in the summer when it's light out, I go 100 hours a week because it's what I want to do. But I love to spend time with my family. If they ever want to do anything, they can pull me away unless I absolutely have to finish something.
Right.
And then they're always invited to hang out in the studio, which my daughter will. My wife comes up, says hello, then I have to go back downstairs, and we spend time together that way.
Right,
But
fantastic. You make a living being an artist?
I do. I have a side job in the advertising business that they would like me to work more on, but they understand. So, yes, I make a living.
Amazing.
And I believe that the sales in me is the reason why I'm able to do that.
Absolutely.
But I really, once again, I have to thank the people that support me because without them, I'm not an artist that sells anything. I am doing ad work or I'm working a job that might be great. I mean, I have to love what I'm doing, but it's not going to be art. So that I continually thank the people that support me. I once said to my friend years ago, who wasn't an artist at the time, I said, Peter, what would you do if you won that $100 million lottery? And he said, I'd go out and I'd buy a $105 million Picasso. It was the greatest answer ever.
That is a great answer.
And it would be worth $200 million now. But he knew what he was talking about. But there are people that buy art. I bought a lot of art. I have a lot of other people's
fan
art.
of art.
I am. And I bought art when I was in the city. I bought the student standing next to me. If I like something, I bought it off their canvas.
That makes them feel good.
It made me feel good.
It's
and
a
they're
good
ready,
feeling.
and they always want to drop the price. I would be fair. I'd say,
I
look,
always try when I go to a festival and I see artists that oftentimes are, just sitting there behind a booth with their art. I always try to support the artists, especially if it's original art. Very important.
Exactly.
And
because you get enjoyment out of it.
Yes.
I mean, you see it on your walls.
Yes.
And I get the people that want to match a piece with their couch. I get that. That's okay.
Let me ask you a great
Sure.
question. What is your answer, or how do you handle, and it may be a nothing subject, but I'm still interested in a world with iPhones and digital replication of art. I mean, you yourself, I think you put your art on Facebook.
I do.
Which is really daring of you, but I guess you trust your process enough. But I'm just flabbergasted by, and this goes for music, but let's stay on the art, this easy digital replication and quality replication.
Sure.
I can take this right now with my iPhone 13, and I can, this, I can shoot this, and I'm not saying I'm doing this, but does this affect you at all? Do you think this affects the psyche of the buyer?
Do you know how it affects me?
Yeah.
If you think you can take that beautifully, I'm going to bring my art here so you can start shooting it, because I'm terrible at shooting.
Right.
I think there is something to AI art, and it's incredible. There's something to people taking a piece.
I mean, first of all, it's copyright infringement, number one, right?
There are so many laws and rules on that, and I know a lot of them. I don't know a lot of them. If somebody wants to take my art and put it on their walls because they took the picture, I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. I don't sell prints. So anything that I do is an original piece of art.
Right.
If they want to take a picture of it, I'm okay with that. It just means that more people like my art.
Exactly.
And
expose you as an artist.
It exposes me, and it makes me feel good.
Yeah.
I'll give you an example. I took a sculpture class in college, and I sculpted. We were only allowed to use a 2x4, but we could use two different ones that were different colors. So I stacked them together. I put dowels. I put glue, and the guy in the shop said, "Don't. You have to cut that before you use the sander, or you'll wear the paper out." And as soon as he left, I went, and I sanded it into a tusk, and I put some hooks on it, and I made this 2x4 tusk that I loved.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next project was make a sculpture that shows movement. I said, I don't mean putting wheels on a car. I want to see movement. So I had to think about that one. And I sculpted a wooden bottle, again out of wood. I sculpted a wooden bottle that was pouring liquid.
Oh, wow.
That turned into ice cubes.
Wow.
And I left it wooden. I loved it. Somebody broke into my room and stole both of them.
Oh,
They
man.
didn't take anything else. They took my art. You know what? I was pretty okay with that. I was like, wow.
Someone thought enough of.
They were not taking any. They purposely broke into my room and took my art.
Yeah, that means something.
I don't know that I'd be okay with it now.
No.
But I have a child,
Right.
But I felt actually good about that. I said, I must
Demand.
be doing
There's some kind of
something-
demand there.
I must be doing something right.
Yeah, that's really cool. Dino, let's get into this piece right here, this
Sure.
what we call still life art.
Correct.
It's got a nice sheen to it from here. So this is oil,
Okay.
big time, right?
There's a nice story that goes behind this as well. Okay. So this, I call this in the box painting. Now, I love recreating glass. I love recreating metal, and I love hydrangeas and other flowers, but particularly hydrangeas because they're challenging. And I love them, people love them. But I was living in Soho in the city. I wanted to do a new still life. I'm walking down the street, and they had the vendors on Houston Street. And I saw this box, and I said to the vendor, "How much for that box?" He said, $20. I said, "What about the one next to me?" He said, "Also $20." I hadn't moved. I'm looking. I'm thinking. I love the first box, not so much the second box. It was actually an old file cabinet drawer from the middle 1800s. And so he said, "2 for 20." And
Whoa.
I said, "Well, I'm actually only interested in that one." And he said, "Okay, $10."
I knew you were going to say that.
And I said, "Okay, I'll take it. Here's your $10." And now, I'm going to tell you something. I was in for the 20. I hadn't moved. You shouldn't have dropped your price so fast. I'm going to teach you. He goes, "Oh, then 20, 20." I said, "No, I'm going to teach you a valuable lesson. Until somebody's walking away from you." I was in. I was contemplating both of
You
them,
were
but I
in.
wanted the one. Then I told him, "I'm an artist, and I am going to sell $10,000 worth of still lifes that I'm going to paint inside that box,"
This is so brilliant.
which he laughed at. But I was right down the street. And the next weekend, I painted a picture in my apartment of my keys
In the
That's
box?
it. In the box, just keys. So I'll send you that. We could.
Okay.
Okay. I put it in the Art Students League Winter Show, and it sold in 10 minutes. The max you could put on a painting was $600. Well, I only had 9,400 to go. I showed him on my way out, and he said, "Wow, that's pretty good, pretty good." I said, "This one's going to sell, I know." I have since gone on to paint, I'm going to say maybe 100, certainly 50 to 100 inside the box paintings, and the number's over $100,000 at this point
Of that particular box?
of that box.
This is a worldwide story. Wait, let me see this.
Okay.
I want to show the camera this. This is the
And
box.
I still have the box, and I still set up still life paintings in it. And now I have another box that's actually a seltzer crate that I just sold my favorite painting. It was done in that box. And that was the Blue Burst Hydrangea. And I'd like to thank Carrie Ann for providing these incredible flowers, by the way.
Absolutely. That is a great story. I've never even heard a story like that. I love that story.
And I showed
And
that
the
guy.
You wanted to teach him the lesson.
I
Not
showed
in
him every painting that I had
You're
done.
kidding me.
Oh, no. I
Wait,
probably
you're
had done-
passing in the street and you're showing him the paper, the
For
paintings?
a year I passed him and
Oh
I showed him the
my God.
paintings. And he
This is
said,
a movie.
My friend, this is a good one. And so,
Wow.
yes, I bought him lunch a few times. I never gave him the money, but I told him, look, I'm coming close to that 10,000 mark.
Oh my God! But he probably and hopefully learned a lesson.
Well, you would think so.
It's
$10
just a
lesson.
It's just
That's
a
right.
simple lesson of negotiation.
That's right.
They call it
I
ass,
hadn't moved.
They call it asses and elbows in the PC Richards world, right?
I don't know.
Yeah,
I've
you know,
never heard
I
that.
had friends that sold white goods, right? And they call it refrigerators and stoves.
Okay.
And you made your deal as you saw asses and elbows. That's it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I
that's
like it.
that's the
Nice.
same thing. This is just art.
Right.
Wow. So, what do you have coming up locally? And I understand that together we may have a really exciting announcement. We don't have it patented down yet, but that's okay. We can make this announcement at any time. Just tell us what the next 3 months looks like for you.
Well, first of all, I'm very excited to announce that we've been discussing my first show in 5 years, which would very likely be in this space. We haven't locked in a date yet. It will certainly be in the spring, late spring. And
Exciting.
it is exciting because I'll also be back out in Port Jeff when it gets a little bit warmer.
Mhm.
I kind of lose my feeling in my fingers. I've been painting with gloves sometimes. But I love painting Port Jeff. I love painting the Three Village area.
Have you thought this wouldn't be easy? I know that you might be doing it from a car to put the heat on. Although it has not been that cold, have you ever thought of maybe replicating one of the ice sculptures or something that's very
I don't
icy
think I could,
here?
I don't think I could replicate an ice sculpture before it would fully melt. I don't-
Okay,
I don't
right.
do anything
right,
quickly.
Right.
So
But anything in terms
that
of...
would be an interesting one. But
Mhm.
the reflections, I mean,
I actually want to share a picture with you that I took that I think you could replicate.
well, I could do it
And
from
it
a
was
photo.
very frigid. Very frigid.
Yeah.
And it was very unique time in Port Jeff. It was about 5 years ago. I'm going to show it to you.
Okay. Immediately, what comes to mind is we're over 100 hours just by you
Yeah.
saying that.
Okay.
There are some things that water can take
Mm.
a long time.
Okay.
I did a Montauk wave, 6 by 8, 5 by 8 feet, and I think it took me about 3 years from start to finish. It did sell.
So in your studio at home, do you literally have multiple projects at once?
Always.
See, I wouldn't have thought that.
Always. I have.
So you literally have something
Finished
on an
walls.
easel here,
Yes.
and then this could be pencil or charcoal, and this could be oil, and it would still be in the same setting? Just whatever.
I would take one off. I use the one
Unbelievable.
easel. I don't have a very big studio. My house is 160 years old.
Mhm.
The ceilings, you have to duck in certain spots. It's a really great place for an artist to live. But I have finished artwork on a couple of walls. I have finished pencil drawings in folders that aren't framed yet. I have a separate room with art that I'm not even sure what's even in there. Sometimes I'm so amazed that I still have a piece that's in there. But then I have the unfinished wall that I'm looking at while I'm painting. And I have to finish those. I have to finish those. And if I have nothing going on, I will pull one of those pieces off.
Awesome.
And I'll take them. And there were 2 unfinished hydrangeas. I didn't like the backgrounds.
Right.
One of my sister's friends said, I want hydrangeas, but I want them light. I said, I have the perfect hydrangeas. I'll go to the store, I'll get a new hydrangea, I'll rework it, and I redid 2 hydrangeas last week, and I made them lighter backgrounds.
You ever go through a dry spell?
Never.
See, that's interesting. And it's thankfully.
My brain is busy for the rest of my life.
So you never had a...
Well, I've gone through a dry spell of not selling some art.
Yeah.
But never
producing.
Never producing.
No artistic dry spell.
No, because
there's always something to do. It's endless.
To do. I've got folders of references of my photos, my people. I always prefer to work from life, and I love painting oranges in the box or with chiaroscuro lighting, this dramatic lighting,
right,
and having a reflection. Onions, pears. They fascinate, and I sit there now. Somebody asked me to paint blue cheese once. The studio, it really smelled. You do an orange, a lime, a lemon.
Sure,
it's fabulous. But
wow.
Yes, and so no, I always, if I have nothing going on, which can be an exciting time for me. A lot of times I do have commissions lined up for a couple of months, and I just keep going.
Right.
And I have other projects that I want to finish. Right now, what I'm drawing is another Salvador Dali, but I had to take down a 36 by 48 fire escape from Soho that I took a picture of that has wonderful lighting. I'm 3/4 of the way finished with it, but probably only halfway. And I took it down, and now I have another painting to do after this, and I will eventually pull that one back in and finish that.
Wonderful.
So there's always something.
Is there a building that you have a goal of in Port Jeff Village that you haven't yet done yet, and or somebody that wants you to do a building? Did you do Village Hall ever?
I have not done Village Hall, but I actually have stood in front of it.
That's a building worth doing, maybe.
You know, sometimes the sales competes.
Drive. Yeah.
It competes with the art. Like, if I paint this, will somebody want it?
Sure.
Or will I want it?
Sure.
Or is it just an exercise in painting and it's nice out and it's a great place to market myself and hand out postcards? But generally, I paint things that I think would be interesting. Barnum Avenue, coming down, and when you see the, it's not Lilco anymore, but the smokestacks, the stacks from Barnum Avenue. I have to paint that. Every time I drive down the street, I'm like,
very iconic. Yeah.
The top of the hill on 25A coming down from the trains, when you see the harbor, Connecticut, the water. I painted Tara's, but I kept looking that way, saying I should have done that.
Right. And or the Lobster House, which we'll never see again.
Exactly. And right. I didn't do the Lobster House. That was a gas station when I was growing up.
Right.
There are so many places, and it could be looking 5 feet left of where you're standing. Could be another painting. I mean, I could literally stand some places on Main Street and do 5 different paintings by just moving my canvas.
No doubt. And there's some alleyways here that are really interesting.
Love alleyways. I did a few in the city. Love them.
The bridge in back of Village Hall with the ducks on a certain day.
Yeah. I mean,
I don't have to give you ideas. You got it.
I do, but restaurants that I love.
Yeah.
And that's almost a sales technique in that you're paying, the owner comes out, he says, well, who's that for? And I said, you.
Yeah. And every one of your
and
patrons.
And if they want it, great.
And your
if
patrons.
they don't, right.
Yeah.
And then I promote their restaurant.
Yeah.
I say, hey.
Right, because your social's taking off.
That was good
too.
coffee.
Yeah.
I'm going to send people to you for coffee.
Wow.
So
good stuff.
That's what you do. I'm happy. I'm a happy guy.
You are a happy guy. We're so pleased to have you.
Thank you.
I could talk to you for hours. Dino, it's been a pleasure speaking to you. I look forward to our next collaboration.
For sure.
I look forward to showing off Mick for the time that it resides here, Mick Jagger. I absolutely love it. I love him, but I also love the way you've interpreted it. It's really, really wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you for stopping by, and
pleasure.
I will see you really soon.
Sounds great. Thank you, Kevin.